Hello, and welcome to episode 9 of the podcast, Speaking from Ignorance. This is what I like to think of as the rise of Skywalker of our podcast, and it will obviously therefore be the best of them all. You know, big is better, right? I am Donald Swan, musician, linguist, and the Enid Blyton of English light music. Haha, no, got you again. It's actually me, Henry Holmes, once again using my chameleon-like acting powers to disguise myself.
I am Daniel. I'm an astronomer.
I am Jacque. I'm a charity person here at social mobility advocate and a connoisseur of oranges.
Oh.
No, that's not true. I wish it was. I mean, I just know nothing about oranges.
Hi, I'm Sid. I'm also an astronomer, and by now I'm an expert in lockdown strategy.
I think we all are. Yeah. Except
lockdown survival strategy.
Okay, our guest this week.
Yes. My name is James, and much like Mr. Holmes, I am also an actor who will hopefully be graduating at some point.
I approve of the fact that my guest, who is also my friend, while introducing himself, refers to me as Mr.
Holmes. It goes along with the whole imagery of, you know, having a butler, all of that.
Yeah, well, you know, it's not easy having a butler. You've got to pay them for a start. So what real tennis news do we have this week?
Oh, well, like all sports, there is... Well, actually, no. Sports actually started again. Like, the football's back.
Has it begun in the UK, like, everywhere? Like, outdoor and indoor sports?
Well, the Premier League's back, isn't it?
Oh, okay. That's not real tennis, then.
Real tennis probably will be a while to come back, because, you know, it's an indoor sport, so probably harder to socially distance.
Talking of activities that people can do indoors, have you heard about the government's advice to Andrew Lloyd Webber on putting his musicals back on?
No, what was that?
They said, could you do the musicals without the singing? It's not really a musical at that point, is it?
That'd be so awkward.
I want to see Les Mis, because, you know, that's a through-composed musical with no dialogue. I want to see what that becomes when you're not allowed to sing.
It's just pure silence. Why would singing matter, though? That makes no sense.
Because it's like sneezing on somebody.
Okay.
In terms of the amount of...
No, hang on, wait. Is singing like sneezing on somebody?
If you sing at somebody, it carries the same amount of germs as sneezing on somebody.
Wow, that's gross. I mean, that is the last time I go to concerts.
Next time you go and see Julia singing a cappella, then just think of it as a group of people sneezing on you.
It's just a wall of 20 girls sneezing on me.
That sounds like a really odd, peculiar...
No judgment here. If you're into that sort of thing, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay,
no judgment here.
No judgment. I think this is the perfect time to segue onto whatever our first question is for this week.
Yeah, I think... was it Daniel who asked this one?
Yes, it was my question. It was the... what would you study at university if you had to choose again, or something like that?
Yeah, if you had to
I don't know if you want to read it out, what the actual
wording was. What would you study at university if you had to pick a different subject?
Or maybe not study at university, maybe like a different career path or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, what would you do instead of what you are doing now?
Yeah.
What do you wish you had done instead?
No.
I'm sure we're all very happy with our life choices right now.
Well, you know, I was, and then Corona happened, and I went, I could be doing a job where I could have work.
Yeah, to be fair, I am glad I'm getting paid.
I think I probably would have studied history, but that would have involved me taking completely different A-levels than the ones I actually took. So
you can pick whatever A-levels you like.
In hindsight, most of the choices I made throughout my educational career were mistakes. in terms of the subjects I picked from just very early on, right through to the end
Now
of
I'm
school.
an actor.
Well, that's
Please subscribe to my Patreon.
That's not a mistake. Becoming an actor is probably one of the best decisions I've made, actually.
How about you, James? Is that one of the best decisions you've made as well?
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to completely agree. I would. It's it's very difficult to describe quite why, but just going through acting training on its own is an incredibly liberating experience. And makes you incredibly. I think it opens your eyes a lot to awarenesses to a lot of different things, which is why I think it's a very powerful tool. I don't know what I would have done instead. Well, I tell you what. I mean, before I was actually going to do acting training, I actually was going to do sports journalism first.
Really?
Yeah.
Cool.
Just for some reason, I just really enjoyed. I think I like to play a lot of games, and when I was younger, and interestingly, I like to commentate over a lot of them. So I just kind of found a segue from that into enjoying doing kind of sports journalism sorts of things. And I actually got some places, but then I can't quite remember why I decided to, but I just kind of rejected that decision making and had a gap year out and, auditioned for drama schools instead. And here I am.
What about you, Daniel?
Yeah, I think I have two answers, like one more realistic answer and one more like, I don't know, if I wanted to like totally redo my educational career all over again. I think the more realistic answer would be history. Like Holmes said, I was pretty good at history in GCSE and enjoyed it quite a lot, but I decided to go down a scientific route instead, so kind of dropped it quite early on. But I think I could go back into that maybe pretty easily, and I still do casual history research on the well, not research, but like watch history videos and read up on stuff.
That is some great research.
Right.
Yeah, no, I don't.
YouTube is my favorite.
I don't go out in the field and dig up artifacts. Or anything like that.
I would argue that's archaeology.
And then my more out there choice would be something like working in the film industry as sort of a behind the scenes, not acting. I don't think I could do that, but maybe like directing or cinematography or something like that. Because I'm really interested in like the process of filmmaking and stuff, or maybe like visual effects or something like that. Work in a corridor crew, sponsored by Corridor.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. And just like Corridor Crew, I have here the stats for our listeners, and 50% of you answered time.
What? But 50% of one is a half. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's crazy.
To be perfectly honest, I was a shit student. I feel like if I went back now, I would still be a shit student. So I'm not entirely sure it would matter like if I studied X subject or that subject. I think after 4 years, like realistically, I wouldn't actually walk away with too much of that info. Really, if anything has benefited me from going to university, it's probably just showing up and just like graduating.
I love that when you said you were a shit student, all I could see was Sid just vigorously nodding. It was really just...
Oh yeah, Sid knows. Sid is aware.
Yeah.
We all know.
There was the small matter of Jacque's dissertation.
Oh my god. I guess. Okay, so for context for listeners, I studied physics. If you haven't already worked that out, but I guess I might be interested in learning more about sociology or like economics. But at the same time, I do honestly believe that life is long and there's still opportunity to go out there and to learn these things. Yeah. There is like
well,
so
not at the
little
moment.
point. Just huh? Oh, yeah.
Life isn't long at the moment. People are
Even
singing to each
still,
other.
you can buy books. You can sit down. You can start reading. Self-learning.
Yeah, I would be interested to do something like economics. But I don't know if I would want to go to school for economics. I'm still not sure that's like interesting enough for me to, study. I would like to know about it, but I kind of want to know about it as a self-study, not really as a university thing, because I'm not thinking of doing a career in it. Although I
Yeah.
do kind of wish I'd done computer science.
Oh yeah, I definitely wouldn't want to do computer science. The little coding I've done, I've not well. I can do it, but it's more of a necessity rather than a hobby for me. I don't enjoy doing it, but I do it because I need to do it. If I had the choice to do something that didn't involve coding, I'd definitely take that opportunity. Well, I guess I still do have that choice, but
Coding is most of my job, and
yeah,
it's great.
yeah. I try to keep my coding to the minimum, to the point where I haven't opened my code in 8 weeks. Well, it's like 10 weeks now.
Jesus Christ, man.
He's hard at work, ladies and gentlemen.
I am hard at work. Yep, very hard. Mhm.
Please hire him, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the day your supervisor listens to this, you're in trouble.
It's the day we make it,
This is the day my PhD
because the
is over.
scandal will make our podcast famous.
Yep.
University
All
of
of
Edinburgh
Jersey will know.
doesn't open code for 10 weeks. Supervisor shocked.
As you guys are PhD students, do you ever have to lecture?
Yeah.
Do you? Oh, is that-
Do you actually lecture? We
I
do-
give problems classes. So
Yeah, I do that as well. But you don't.
yeah, but I lecture in the problems class. Like I have to go through all their problems, go through all of the things, and actually explain physics, and it's awful.
Okay, is there not a faculty member there, like the
No.
head of the class? No. Oh,
No, because I'm a
That-
PhD student. I'm expected to know how to do physics, which is not true.
I give lectures, and I remember when I remember when I started, and it was absolutely terrifying. So basically, I'm a professional development coach, and I'm supposed to know a lot about consultancy, right? So consultancy interviews are really, really difficult, and I was giving some presentation about how to do consultancy interviews, right? It was my very first week, and I basically read someone else's notes and slides, and that was it. And I probably had like 50-minute prep to give a 30-minute talk, and it was horrible. It was like first week, I was so nervous, and I just had to like fake confidence up there. And it was the very end, and someone was asking me like loads and loads of questions. They were just going into me, and I managed to somehow answer most of them. But someone asked me this like incredibly specific question. They were like, "Yeah, so what do you think of Victor Chang's book?" And I was like, I have no idea who that person is. That means nothing to me. I was like, stay calm, stay collected. And I just stared out in front of me, and straight in front of me, there was a bookshelf. And one of those books was Victor Chang, Case and Few Secrets. I'm like, it has to be that one. I'm like, yeah. Do you mean Case and Few Secrets? And he was like, yeah, that's it. I'm like, yeah, great. You know, I'm actually only 2 chapters in. What do you think? And I just spun it on them, and it worked perfectly. It was just beautiful.
what if you'd said it's not structured in chapters? What are you talking about?
I've been so screwed. It's just a colouring book.
It's a pop-up.
It's like your worst nightmare. You're like, 2 chapters in. What do you mean? It's just a colouring book, and then you wake up all anxious in a pool of your own sweat.
I mean, I basically started that new job, and then like five days in, I was giving this lecture, and it was horrible.
Yeah, that seems like a lot. I still haven't
Yeah.
actually given a presentation to my, like, in a group meeting. I've done it to my peers, and I have to give another one in like a month, but I haven't presented about what I have done yet.
It's fine now. Like I do it weekly, and since I actually know what I'm talking about now, it's much better.
That is the key. You have to know what you're talking about.
Definitely. I mean,
Damn, knowing what you're talking. That's why I can't lecture in anything.
So, James,
Yes.
but maybe you could just do a quick introduction of what you're doing for the rest of us who don't really know what you do.
Oh, no, absolutely. Well, originally I was thinking about what I could talk about when I was coming on the podcast, and the most obvious thing was obviously acting. was also then thinking about all the things that are currently topical at the moment, and obviously with like the Black Lives Matter movement, for instance. There's a lot of social change going on at the moment, and I was thinking what kind of social changes in my life that were still not really being talked about in society at the moment. And what I kind of came to was thinking about when I was doing dance when I was younger. I think about the age of 3, I started doing dance because my mum was running a dance school. And, you know, I had to grow up with, I would say I was in a very lucky position because of my friendship groups, because of the background I came from, that I didn't suffer, I think, anywhere near as much as other people did or do trying to get into dance. But, you know, there was a lot of injustices that I went through when I was younger because I did dance. There was a lot of you know, homophobic abuse and comments that go around because you're just trying to do something you enjoy. And I think that it's improving. I think it's a lot better than it used to be. I think that's helped by things like, you know, you've got Strictly Come Dancing you see on telly, and there's a lot of admiration for the male dancers on that. You've got there's lots of videos on YouTube.
Out of interest, James, do you think the type of dance makes a difference? Because I imagine there's a different reaction to like a male ballroom dancer or Latin dancer or tap dancer or ballet dancer, like between the different types, and there's a different sort of reaction to training in that.
Yeah, I think there's I think there are a lot of factors, I think, in the experience. For instance, I didn't do ballet, and I'm sure if I did ballet, for instance, and that was a well-known fact among people at my school, I probably would have suffered worse. You know, I think at the top of the scale, you're looking at your hip hops and things like that, just because of, you know, the physical strength that it takes to be able to do that. It takes a lot of physical strength to be able to do ballet as well, but
people don't know that.
No, exactly. Because it's more aware of, you know, the physical strength it takes to do hip hop, and I suppose the music and things that go along with it. There's a lot more respect for people that or for guys that do hip hop, than there is for people that go in to do ballet, for instance. Which is a shame because you know, it takes so much strength on a different level. You know, I could talk about the fact that going and doing dance is like going to the gym, except, you know, I also go to the gym, and I see it just on another level, because it's not only training you physically, stamina wise, but it's also making you more physically aware. You know, it's heightening your flexibility. But yeah, going back though, there definitely is a scale. I think your ballrooms and stuff are sort of in the middle, because again, as I said, with like Strictly Come Dancing, you've got role models on that are doing that kind of dance that people look up to then. But there still isn't really that push yet on things like ballet. You know, there's still that stigma that we see towards it.
Yeah, I found it's really strange for me at Exeter. I was in my 3rd year, and I met a guy through the kayaking club, and he was saying that he used to play rugby, and then he signed up to ballet simply because he wanted to improve his agility. And he's like, yeah, so a lot of us would do that. And I'm like, well, you don't really think of ballet as a really manly art form, I suppose. But yeah, there you go.
It's an interesting thing. I think that might tell you something about the background of rugby players, largely. Because, I mean, if you look at demographics still, most of them are privately educated. And I imagine in those kinds of circles, although bullying is rampant, I think it's because of different reasons. And actually, I don't think the stigma behind that kind of thing is the same around the sort of the high arts, like ballet and opera and things like that.
But I mean, the sad thing is, it is definitely still around. I mean, I was just I remember there was an article last year that talked about a Good Morning America presenter who was talking about Prince George, who does ballet lessons, saying, I wonder how long that will stick, sort of thing. It's just comments like that that really don't help the change that's going on. And I think, again, I just don't think it's something that's really talked about. It's for some reason there's still this idea that that doing dance is not a manly thing, or we still have to do things which are not masculine. I mean, I could also track this to my acting journey. I don't know if Henry will have experienced the same things. I'm sure he probably has, but I've run into lots of people who still talk about acting as if it's some kind of, I don't know. They somehow still manage to attach.
There's a weird association with the arts as being feminine as well, or certainly the performing arts.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's historic or if it's... I don't even know if it's recent.
Because, if you think back to, ancient Greece, only men were allowed to both do sports and do arts, right? So,
yeah.
It's odd, I wonder when that flip
it's weird
happened.
how, I wonder when that flip happened. Maybe you guys know.
Well, in Shakespeare's day, they still had 14-year-old boys playing the female parts.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
I was just about to say that.
So do you still dance, James? As in, not as part of acting, but as just, a dancer?
Sadly, I actually don't at the moment, but that's purely because, unfortunately, the course Henry and I have done is so full-time that, sadly, I'm not able to do it anymore. But I think should I be in the setting where I'd be able to, then I definitely would be. I genuinely, there's so many benefits to dance, which is why it's also, I think, so infuriating to see these kind of stigmas put on it, and to see so many people reluctant to do it. Because, as I was talking briefly about, it being sort of like a gym session, except in my opinion, better. In a way, they're kind of aesthetically strength and mindset based. They teach you how to create your body, but not really how to use your body, and I think that's a very important difference. I think dance is very influential in teaching you how to properly use your body, and I think it's a big problem societally. We disconnect ourselves as human beings so much from our animalistic qualities. And dance is one of those things that brings us back anywhere close to that physical base.
I do think it's I do think it's interesting what you say, James, about using your body better, because I was going to say that our movement training and sort of dance and things associated with that kind of thing, I do think it makes a huge difference, actually, because you have these
Has
habits.
it helped you in your MMA journey now, Holmes?
Oh yeah, big time. Because you genuinely have the habits of a lifetime of just the way that you walk or the way that you move, and then you'll do something like dance or movement training or something like that, and they'll go, oh, actually no, if you use these core muscles to do that, you go, oh my god, this is much more efficient.
Muscles? I don't have those.
or using your psoas muscles to do leg lifts or something, and you go, oh no, I'm not straining my groin, for example.
So, James, I was thinking it was really strange how I hadn't thought about the stigma around dance properly for a while. Well, at least I guess for me it's not very prevalent. But even in the back of my mind, I know it's there, in society, but it's sort of bringing it to prominence. And I think it's really strange how we're surrounded by dance as both a male and female art form. Every day, you have music videos, literally. You have even things at the UFC, people are dancing when they come out. And in particular, there's a UFC fighter who's known for combining martial arts and dance. And he did both as a kid. And I'm thinking about this, I'm like, it's strange how it's just subconsciously there in culture, but for no reason other than, I guess it's something all of us were subconsciously just subject to as kids.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's where it comes in a circle in thinking about the topic of Black Lives Matter at the moment. And then you can see that these things come about in trends. Questioning of social issues comes about in trends, sadly, at the moment, and it shouldn't be coming out in trends. Which is why I think it's this movement is so important, because it is the biggest shake-up we've had in our living history, socially, and I think it's where we need to start challenging on a number of levels. And I again, going back to what you're saying about the fact that you don't see it, I'm not seeing it either, and I think that's because it's just not coming about in as a trend yet. It's that's not important. It's like trans rights went incredibly quiet because it came up as a trend a few years ago and has gone out of trend again. And it's why I think everyone needs to jump on these social questions now.
I also think that negative stigma towards dance is largely confined to people's private lives or to the schoolyard. I don't think it's necessarily as you say, there was that news presenter in America who was
but that almost sounded like it's a subconscious bias. Like he wasn't. It's just like a throwaway joke that is deemed harmless because he learnt it. I don't know, but
I do think it's odd. I actually want to start by saying thanks, James, for coming on, telling us about this. I can see that this is a deeply personal topic to you. So thanks for sharing it. I do think it's really interesting how. Well, I wonder how much of this is confined to British culture, though, because like when I think about British people and dance. I reckon in general people who actually do dance are probably kids in school and professionals, and that's basically it. Whereas if you go to a country like Colombia, everyone dances, right? You don't find people who don't dance. So I wonder why we've separated from this sort of element of culture.
It's interesting because like somewhere like Austria, for example, there's an entire sort of 5-6 month period of the year where there are balls every week. So dancing is just a necessary social skill. Like if you can't dance, you're severely handicapped socially.
Well, I'm already severely handicapped.
That explains
socially,
it all.
So.
Yeah, that's why
As
we
are
studied
we all.
physics. It wasn't a choice, really.
Yeah, it is a very interesting point. As you say, like you go to Cuba and dance, is more prevalent or put on a higher pedestal there than football is here in England. It's just so interesting how we're each society is still so selective about what is okay and what's not okay.
I feel that's also quite a lot down to culture, though. And with the rise in sort of globalism and multiculturalism, we're not really ready for that kind of rapid change. I think just as human beings, that's not something we're used to.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a historic trend, isn't it? Though sadly, social change lags behind a lot of other changes.
Yeah,
it's an interesting thing actually. We're talking about it culturally because I can't think of a more like masculine culture than Russian culture, basically. And yet, dancers are venerated in Russia. Like a male ballet dancer, like hugely venerated in Russia.
But that's because I suppose history. Russia has a history of the arts, doesn't it? We go to acting, where here it's not revered so much. I'm sure in other places it's revered worse. But in Russia you have Stanislavski,
Chekhov. Both Chekhovs.
Yeah, Chekhov, exactly. All of these amazing theorists who fought against the censorship. And created a beautiful culture in Russia, and that's why I guess it's so revered there.
So, James, what as a society are we missing out on by not embracing dance more?
Again, I think it goes back to all those things I'm talking about physically. I think educationally we push ourselves towards an intellect rather than a creative. Sadly, I think that's just kind of the education system we're built into at the moment. But I don't think our education system teaches us enough about what we are or who we are. You know, it's why there's so much mental health going around at the moment. And it seems odd to make those links between mental health and dance. But the more you learn about yourself physically, the more confident you are physically, the more it can help with that sort of thing, you know? It's amazing how little people actually know about their body. And, you know, it took me to go through acting training and being taught about our bodies through that kind of biology of how we actually use our bodies, not rather than, you know, our biology lessons, which go, this is your skull, this is your femur. You know, talk about how we actually use our bodies biologically, to make me realize how little, you know, we as people actually know about ourselves. There's so much to learn about the human body and so much to learn about what the human body is capable of.
By the way, if you ever go to do acting training, pay attention in biology, because we do so much biology in acting training. It's unbelievable. And I dropped biology as soon as I could. Well, not as soon as I could.
Same.
I dropped it after GCSEs.
Also same.
I was crap.
Hated biology.
Biology.
But yeah, I think dance is incredibly useful because it touches on so many bases. It teaches you about how you can use your own body. It teaches you about your personality, you know, through how you want to perform. It teaches you respect for, you know, similarly to acting. You know, you make yourself vulnerable when you're performing. And in making yourself vulnerable, there's this beautiful energy that goes around the group, and trust that you're making yourself vulnerable with these people.
Well, yeah, James. I feel like you've raised a fantastic point on like the sort of relationship between mental health and dance. I've recently moved to London, which is kind of a high stress environment. Always feels like super like urban and busy. I don't know, like genuinely.
Yeah, no, I agree. I just love that's the first thing you describe London as.
It is, to be fair.
Yeah, accurate description. Yeah.
And I've recently started salsa, and I do genuinely find that it's just a great like method of stress release, and it's something that I wouldn't have tried normally, but it was just there in front of me, and after going for a few weeks, I've really realized, yeah, it's really fun, it's really vibrant, it's really exciting. I do wish that I had done something like this younger, but it's definitely the stigma that stopped me, because I was definitely offered salsa classes when I was at university and stuff, but I was like, no, that's not me. And like I would see like a class of just women, it would just be an entire salsa class with just women, and it would put me off.
Yeah, I mean, my mum's dance school, it was originally it was 4 of us out of about 60 students, and then by the end, when I finished, it was 2 of us out of about 80 students. So it is, and it can be incredibly disheartening, which is a shame. What I love about, you know, the modern time that we're in is that there's, you know, we're aware of so many different types of exercise that you can do. You know, yoga's a brilliant thing again. But yeah, I think it's just so important to bring it back. I think now is a brilliant time to bring it back to where, you know, to our roots. There's so much going on in the world, and life is starting to become such like an intellectual property. Again, going back to mental health, it's why there is so much mental health, because we are so in our heads about everything. And it's amazing, genuinely amazing how just using your body more and becoming more of one being with your whole body can alleviate that stress off of your mind.
Yeah, no, totally agree, because I don't think human beings were built to sit in a room and stare at screens for 8 hours a day, and it really took a big pandemic to make me appreciate that. Like literally being stuck in your house for 3 months and not really being able to go outside for a big part of that, not being able to do the sort of activities you would normally do as a society, just really disheartening.
Absolutely. I mean, there's plenty of scientific information out there on the fact that I think the frontal cortex is shrinking in
no.
brain.
Oh no!
Which is, it's because human beings are taking on more information than we were designed to do, and it's great that we're taking on so much information. But again, it's just something that we need to be human beings aware of. And I go back to, again, I just think that things like dance, things like movement, yoga, things like that, which are still kind of stigmatized, as again, we don't really talk about it as much, but bringing back things like this into the forefront and making them popular for all, I think would benefit everyone's health.
They did used to be. I mean, you look at just before World War II and during World War II, and that generation, like just thinking of Britain and how it's become sort of stigmatized here, but like people used to go dancing on Fridays and at the weekends. That just used to be the sort of the great social pastime in the way that it still is in some places. And it's interesting that that's disappeared, and I wonder, just in terms of sociology and the history of that, why that's happened.
Yeah, we just seem incapable as societies, as people, of holding all of these things which benefit us down. We always seem to find some way of creating something new which kind of diverts our attention.
I do think it's really sad that Britain has kind of stopped dancing, because there's so much culture associated with this sort of like Gaelic Isle, right? So like in Scotland you've got all the Caileys and also of Ireland, and also you've got maypole dancing, which like who does? Is that like 10 people out of like?
I do Morris dancing.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, I do actually.
But like,
I'm
I'm
not
sure
surprised.
I really don't know that much about like historic British dance, but I guarantee it's there, and I guarantee that it's shrinking. Which really
Yeah,
sucks.
100%. I'd 100% agree. And the beautiful thing again about British culture is that it is a mix of so many different cultures, much like most other countries. And we do have a beautiful history of dance here that is going under the wire. And it does make me sad. It does make me sad. But I guess what makes me sadder is that, again, sadly bringing this back to a political thing, we have a populace and a lot of people, complaining about British culture being changed and fighting against it. When we've done so much, to forget what British culture really is, or is it? It is a beautiful mix of and blend of different nationalities, of different cultures, of different things that have been brought in. There's just so many things which are being forgotten and left behind, and it seems very agenderized as to what we want to keep and what we don't want to keep of culture.
It is an interesting point as well, because you just go, at what point does culture become native culture as well? Because you look at something like Morris dancing, which, for most people, you go, oh, that's as English as tea and crumpets. And you go, well, tea's from India. Morris dancing was imported from Flanders, and it was originally imported from southern Spain, and it's Moorish dancing. That's what it is. It's Moorish dancing, and the name is morphed into Morris dancing.
Oh, no way.
I didn't know that.
We're very good at changing names, very slightly.
Yeah.
Just enough where you can't find the
Which is
original
why there's
culture.
one Morris dancing troupe in Lincolnshire that do it in blackface, because that's how they did it in the 1200s. And you go, well, everybody else has changed, so maybe...
There are some things maybe that should change about
Yep.
culture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, just to go back to your question though, I do feel sad that we're losing out on a lot of culture that's been created, because just from doing, because I haven't done a wide variety of dance in my past. I've only done a few different types, but with Henry on our acting course, we were fortunate enough to have a few weeks total really of dance training from loads of different cultures of dance, which are all part of the British culture of dance. But what's lovely is that they've been, not to say that other cultures don't have a wide variety of mixes that come from different places, but we are a particular melting pot of stealing other cultures' dances and bringing it to the UK. So we are in our little bubble here, and in America, we do have, I'd say, probably the biggest mixture of modern dances from around the globe. So it is important, I think, that we hold on to we hold on to them and we nurture them, and when we try and get more people involved in it, so that we don't lose all of that.
So James, I imagine there are a lot of men out there who may be interested in dancing, or might be a little bit too nervous to just start. What would you say to them?
That's exactly what I was going to ask.
This guy stole my question.
Yeah.
Begin the motivational speaking. I would say we spend, speaking as someone who's gone through their child life and is in, on the first steps of going into my adulthood, we spend so much of our childhood being scared of what is to come, not putting ourselves out there enough because we're worried about what people will think of us, not making ourselves uncomfortable because it's far easier to be comfortable. But you learn so much, and this life is so short. It's so important to learn as much about yourself and the world around you as you can, and enjoy it as much as possible. And so, if dance isn't for you, then it's not for you. But if you want to learn about your body, if you want to have some fun, if you want to, to make some relationships that you might not find in other places, then I would encourage you to do it, to take that leap of faith, because in being uncomfortable, you learn, you fail and you learn. It applies to so many different things. It's not necessarily something which will give you success. If it's one of those things where you're more likely to have success in most other things than you are probably to become a dancer, because again, like acting, it's an incredibly hard thing to get into, and that's not to say it's not incredibly hard to do other things, but it is so beneficial. Even if you're not wanting to take it onto the future, learn about yourself, even if it's taking a few classes just to try and see what it's like. We spend so much time worrying about exams because that is what is at the forefront of our attention, or school, all of these things. It's nice just to try and find some time to think about yourself and learn about yourself and learn about who you are, especially when you're younger.
But it's never too late.
It's never too late. At any point, anyone can start. Anyone can start at any point.
That was like a good question to end it on as well.
Thank you for coming on, James.
Thank you for letting me
much,
speak.
James.
Thank you for, it was a really interesting topic of conversation.
Yeah, definitely. I learned a lot today. I'm glad.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thanks for listening this week. Before we announce next week's question, I want to tell you how you can find us. We are on mainly podcasting services, Anchor FM, Spotify, and YouTube. Though the YouTube is a little bit...
okay, yeah, we're behind.
Yeah. We're also on Twitter. You can find us at From Ignorance. And you can email us any inquiries at speaking.ignorance@gmail.com. Next week, best productivity tips. Please help. I haven't opened my code in 2 months. Wonder who that could be.
Not me, no.
That would be cool. Talking about productivity, and especially in this current climate that we have.
Yeah.
Sorry, we're all so unproductive that we decided to turn our regular conversations into a podcast. So I don't know how many tips we're going to have.
Thanks for listening, guys. See you next week.